Okay, hello and welcome back to my channel. Just gonna check the audio for a second here. Okay, hello and welcome back. Okay, might be a little bit of an echo there for a second, but has to be done because people don't always help me check the audio. So there it is. We'll give people a chance to show up here. As you can tell by the title, this is not gonna be a normal one of my streams. I will open this up as an open chat in a second. I'll share the link in the chat as soon as I get a little settled in here and start gathering my thoughts on this. I'm sure those who are paying attention to the news will know what I'm talking about. Let's see if I can share the link in a few spots here. Put that up on MeWe. See if we can get some people in here. If anybody's out there in the chat, please feel free to say hello. This video is going to be a very some of it's opinion, some of it should be common sense, morality. In that if anybody's paying attention to the news, especially concerning Richard Stallman, you guys know why I titled this stream what I titled it. That is that Stallman is a monster. And that might sound a little clickbaity. It is. I want to get clicks, right? But I don't really care about that. It's a statement of my honest thought on the matter. Is that if you support or defend any form of pedophilia or sex with children or anything like that, you are a monster. I don't care what you've contributed to society. You know, I just don't. You advocate or defend something like that, you are a monster. You are a pariah of society, and you should be ousted from it. I'm serious about that. When did we abandon morals? And I'm going to open this up I'm going to share the link in the chat in a few. But I mean, this is a tough one to gather my thoughts on, because there are people out there who would let this guy get away with murder. And it's like, don't get me wrong, he did a good thing with the Free Software Foundation, okay? But another YouTuber out there, I think his name is Dark One, he said, what if a racist cured cancer? It's like, well, it's kind of the same, not exactly the same, but it's kind of the same analogy, in the sense that if a racist cured cancer, that'd be a tough one, because, okay, you cured cancer on one hand, but on the other hand, you're a racist, and I don't want to deal with you. Well, it's like that with Stallman. It's like, okay, Stallman, you did this one thing that was really good. You created the Free Software Foundation, you started a movement, but now you're saying that children who were drugged, kidnapped, and dragged to literally pedophile island were entirely willing. Yeah, come on. Come on, you're crazy. Stallman is a monster. If he honestly believes that. And I'm saying that with utmost sincerity. I will defend that. And never mind the toe jam eating, the fits that he throws on stage. Never mind those things. Those things are minor compared to defending pedophilia. Okay, that if you don't draw the line at he's defending sex with children, if you don't draw the line at that, you have no line. You have no line. Where is the line? Here, I'll share the link in the chat here because I've been rambling for a bit. But see if anybody wants to join in. Yes, John Christ, that's what I'm talking about. He said, I mean, people. Yes, he has in the past, and he did just there. He said that a minor that was drugged, many cases they were kidnapped and dragged against their will to this pedophile island that Epstein was on. How was any of that willing? If you have to drug your victim, guess what? They weren't willing. They weren't willing. You had to use a little bit of, you had to do a little bit of convincing there. And it brings up the whole thing that, like, if you think that a child can be willing, and this isn't the first time that Stallman has said something like that. I remember a couple years back, hearing about that. He said that a child can consent, and so he was defending it, like, okay, I'm sorry, but a child cannot consent to something like that. Their brain hasn't fully developed. Their body hasn't fully developed. We can have that discussion. But, yeah. Tax action, yeah. Yeah. That was gross. That was gross. The toe jam incident was gross. But yeah, exactly, John. And that's something that a lot of people didn't know. I think it was DistroTube that did the video. It was like 1 or 2 years ago when this came up, and he was saying that that a child could consent. Like Richard Stallman was saying that a child can consent, and that's where I draw the line. It's like when you ask the question, are Linus Torvalds and Richard Stallman, are they good for Linux? Well, I think Linus Torvalds and Richard Stallman are two completely different animals, in the sense that you have Linus, who, yeah, he lashed out on a lot of people, but he created Linux. He's still at the top of the Linux kernel. He's still doing something to help with the community. And yeah, maybe he could have been a little nicer, but he was trying to protect his baby. His baby is a Linux kernel. He was trying to protect his baby, and that's very different from someone defending, sex with children and stuff. Like, it's just crazy. I don't remember exactly where his source was, but it was if you go, I think it's on DistroTube's channel, where I think it was his, but it wasn't recent. This was like years ago, like maybe 1 or 2 years ago. So I'm sure if it's still up on his channel, he's got the link to it in the description. Oh, wait a minute. You wanna know something? I just saw it on my feed. Because this is really nothing new. Well, but Mark, that's the thing. Is that I'm not judging him. I'm judging the words that came out of his mouth. Okay, and yeah, if and I do honestly believe that anybody who would defend an act like that or say anything positive about an act like that is a monster and should not be around children, should not be in society in general, really. Matter of fact, here's the video. I'll share my window here. Whoops. Wrong window. Here. For those that don't know, I'm using KDE today as opposed to my normal i3. So here's the video that I was mentioning, and it just popped back up on my feed. So I thought it was a new video at first, but then I noticed it was the old logo. It says March 18th, 2018. So yeah, this was about what, last year or so. And so looks like here we have the source. Okay, here we go. Pedophilia, 4th of January 2013. Okay, so here we go. There's little evidence to justify the widespread assumption that willing participation in pedophilia hurts children. So there's a problem right there. Willing participation. That is something else, huh? Yeah, somehow I think the willingness is only one way, Richie. Something in my gut just tells me that. So I mean, there's the video and his source, and I would be inclined to trust DistroTube and his sources and his research. And so, I mean, there you have it. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. And I mean, like, I don't think it's any secret that like I'm a Christian. So, like, obviously you could pray for a man like this, but I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like he I'm sorry, but like he's either incredibly ignorant, or he's an evil monster. And I have a hard time believing that he's ignorant. And so if so to answer the question of is Richard Stallman, is Linus Torvalds good for the Linux community? Linus Torvalds, I would say yes. Okay. I would say Linus Torvalds is good for the Linux community because he might be rash, he might be a little out there in some things. He might be a little, what's the word I'm looking? He might be a little rude at times, but that's a whole different ballgame than what we're dealing with here. I think Richard Stallman needs to be like, if I had my way, he would be like banned from society. Like any pedophile, anybody who would defend pedophilia, anybody who would defend pedophilia, who would say anything like this, I would say needs to be banned from society. Just like send them off to the desert somewhere. And well, yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, I think Linus, like the Linux kernel is his baby, and I'm not defending his behavior. Like maybe he could be like a little nicer, and like I don't want to be one of those people that would let him get away with murder either. Like if Linus was saying these things, I would say the same thing about him. But I think it's a whole different ballgame from someone saying, no, this sucks. This is not going in my kernel, blah, 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 because it sucks and you suck, blah, blah. That's different from saying that, oh, I'm going to go have sex with a child because they're completely willing. Those are two different things. One of them is trying to make a good product and is getting a little out of hand while trying to do it. And the other one has a bigger problem than the Catholic Church. Nope. No, don't go after me for that one. Well, but Mark, why? He said that. Here, we'll find the article. This is the more recent one. Renowned MIT scientist defends Epstein. Victims were entirely willing. And then he goes on to defend what? Child porn and stuff like that. It's like, come on. How can a child be willing? Here he is saying they're entirely... You don't get that from that? You don't get that he's saying that they're entirely willing from the statement they were entirely willing? I'm sorry, man. I gotta call it as it is. He literally said these things. And again, if anybody said these things, I would be saying the same thing about them. This isn't about, oh, I hate Richard Stallman. No. He did a good thing founding the Free Software Foundation and all. Well, but that's the thing. If I sit here and I say, um, yeah, exactly. Exactly. The Nazis did make a lot of good scientific advancements. So did the Japanese. The Romans did. Go back in time. A lot of these like huge evil empires made a lot of good strides in the scientific discovery and whatnot. Um, But I would say this is that, like, if I saw, like, let's say um on the news, a local priest molested a young altar boy or something, and I said, well, um, that's okay. The child was completely willing, right? Like, here's the thing: if you're a big overshadowing adult, and you, well, but Mark, this is the actual source. But Mark, that's not the point. A 17-year-old can't consent. She's a minor. And she was most likely drugged and kidnapped and dragged to the island. There's nothing willing about that. Have you been following the Epstein case? You realize most of those girls weren't there willingly, right? So I'm sorry, I don't buy that she was willing. She could have been 20. But if she's on Whore Island, on Pedophile Island, she wasn't there willingly. She was dragged there against her will. And everything that she did there was either to survive or because she was drugged or hypnotized, or I don't know what they do to these girls. It truly is a demonic cult that these people are a part of. And we're going down to a bit of a rabbit hole here, but the bottom line is that, like, is that like if you anybody who would defend something like this is either very, 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 very ignorant of morality, or a monster. And I don't believe that someone as intelligent as Richard Stallman is ignorant. I don't believe that he's sitting there wondering, is it okay to have sex with a child? I don't think that he is. I think he knows that it's wrong. I think he's without excuse because someone as intelligent as him could not possibly be ignorant of something like that. And I'm sorry, I had to. I mean, you could disagree with me. You could think I'm rushing to judgment here. And that's fine. We can have that disagreement. That's the beauty of America. We can have this disagreement. As a matter of fact, I would defend Richard Stallman's right to say everything that he said. Okay? Because I do believe in freedom of speech. I do believe in liberty. I believe in those things. However, that doesn't mean that there's not going to be consequences if you say something as damning as this. I mean, and there are going to be some people who are going to either ignore this because they can't see the bad in someone they look up to. There are some people who are going to do mental gymnastics to defend it, like, oh, he didn't mean what he said. He didn't actually say that. He meant this. But at some point we all got to come to reality that, like, okay, let's go through the article then. We'll go through it. While MIT engages in damage control following revelations, university's media lab accepted millions of dollars in funding from Jeffrey Epstein, a renowned computer scientist at the university. Has fanned the flames by apparently going out of his way to defend the accused sex trafficker and child pornography in general. Richard Stallman has been hailed as one of the most influential computer scientists around today and honored with a slew of awards and honorary doctorates. But his eminence in the academic computer science community came into question Friday afternoon when he purportedly leaked email excerpts showed him suggesting one of Epstein's alleged victims was entirely willing. So it would seem that it's a there was a leaked email. So like what, like you send emails back and forth in your job or whatever, like an MIT engineering alumna, Salam G, not even gonna attempt that, published a blog post calling for Stallman's removal from the university in light of his comments, along with excerpts from the email. So this is in an email that Stallman said this. I mean, so not only did he decide to do this, but he decided that, okay, I'm gonna send this to people in my work and let them know what I mean, look, I'm not going to jump into the weeds too much with this, okay? But like, and I'm going to try not to judge his thoughts, okay? Now, I do think, here's the thing with this guy, okay? Okay, but that might be true. That might be true, Mark. He might have said that Epstein was a serial rapist, but I like the source for that because I got the source here that he said in an email that was leaked. This is like him saying this, that the victim was entirely willing, and you got this other article here on the Wikipedia page saying that he said that willing pedophilia is doesn't damage kids. So you got, if he said that, then he's conflicting himself there. I'm sorry, but he's contradicting himself if he said that, because how can you say that Jeffrey Epstein is a serial rapist and then say that the victims are willing? You can't have those two things. Those two things don't match. It's like saying, you know, yeah, I think he needs to step down too, and I think that would be good for the free software movement as a whole, because we can put somebody in who doesn't want to because here's the thing, okay, excuse me, okay, from my experience, usually if you defend pedophilia at all, it's because like what John said, John up here, I think it was John, who said that if you're defending something like that, it's probably because you have urges yourself, right? Like if you're defending pedophilia, it's probably because you want to engage in it. Now, I'm not going to go out on that limb and say that Stallman's having urges like that. Okay, I'm not going to say that. But At the very least, here's what he would do. Okay, if he knew that a man in the next room was having sex with a child, he would stand by and let it happen. Not call the cops, not go in and try to stop it. He would stand by and let it happen because it's entirely willing. Okay, that alone would make you a monster. If you would even allow it to happen, that makes you a monster. If you would defend it happening, that makes you a monster. Because standing by and allowing evil to happen, and not only that, but allowing it to happen, but defending its happening, you're just as guilty as the perpetrator. Okay, you're just as guilty. So, if I sit here and defend Epstein and say, okay, well, all the victims that he kidnapped were completely willing, well, that would make me just as guilty as Epstein, because I'm letting it happen. I'm defending it. I'm letting it happen. Okay, now, so that's why I would say that, yeah, that makes Stallman a monster. In this respect, he is a monster. Because he would allow something like that to happen and not even lift a finger to stop it. Because he doesn't see anything wrong with it. And no matter what the reason is, like, I'm sorry, but things like this don't belong in Mark, have you ever heard the saying that your silence is consent? If I see, if you drive by the highway and you see an accident, if you drive by the highway and you see an accident and you don't report it, you know the cops can charge you for that? If I'm sitting here and I'm witnessing a murder, and I don't do anything to stop it, I don't even call the cops, wouldn't that make me an accessory? Right, like, and so, yeah, if you enable that behavior, then yeah, there's a problem there. And I would say this about anybody. Like, okay, I'll put it to you this way. If you're a large, over domineering adult, and you feel an attraction to this young child over there, you can make them willing if you want. All you gotta do is make them feel threatened, and they'll do whatever you want them to do. Because you could hurt them if they don't. And then you can say, well, she said yes. Yeah, that's because you were over domineering. You're an adult. She's a child. You can easily manipulate her. Or him, or whatever. They can't make those decisions. And yeah, I would say that, like, if you witness a crime happening and you don't report it, yeah, I think, like, it's one thing if the guy's got the gun pointed at you too. It's another thing if you're just standing by watching it happen in a window and you're just watching it and you don't do anything about it. Right, like, that's at that point, I'm sorry, you're I mean, yeah, the language in my title is very harsh, and the things that I was saying here is very harsh. But it's my honest opinion, and we can have a disagreement on this. We can have that disagreement. That's okay. That's the beauty of America. That's the beauty of the First Amendment. We can have this disagreement. But I'm sorry. I'm not going to abandon my morals, and I'm not going to abandon what's right just because this guy's got some past glory. If a racist discovered the cure for cancer, you wouldn't join the Klan. You wouldn't defend the Klan. You would say, thanks for the cure. Now, if you, well, okay, well that's a different word, and you could use that word too. Like, if you know that pedophilia is going on, and you sit there and do nothing about it, and not only that, but you defend it, doesn't that make you at the very least complicit? Does that make Stallman complicit in pedophilia? And I'm sorry, but that's an evil thing to do. And I mean, that's the thing. It's like we all try to make things gray when, like, in some instances it's like, no, this is black and white. This is black and white. The man fed a pedophilia, that's evil. We call him out for the evil that it is. We don't sit here and say, well, did he really mean what he said? Did he really mean that they were entirely willing? No. No, and I don't know how society got to this point. I don't know how society got to this point where we're just like, oh, this guy's but 20 years ago, he started the free. He did this good thing. It's like, well, okay, the Catholic Church does a lot of good things, and we acknowledge a lot of good things that the Catholic Church does. But we, as a society, call them out for the way they're handling the priest issues with the pedophilia. We gotta call them out on that. And I mean, none of us are perfect. All of us do good things, and then all of us do evil things sometimes too, because we're all human. And we get called out on the bad that we do. And I mean, I think there's some things in this world that you just can't do mental gymnastics around to justify. Like, there's no excuse for him saying these things. There's no excuse. There's nothing I would say to say, like, okay, it's okay for him to say these things. It's okay because he's Stallman and he did this and he did that. Because guess what? If I had, let's say that someone else said these things. Okay, let's say that it wasn't, Stallman that said this. Okay, let's say that it was who's someone that the media would always attack. Let's say, and I'm not trying to get political here, but let's say that it was Donald Trump that said this, that said that Epstein's victims were entirely willing. Would you be saying, and it was in an email, the same situation as we got in Stallman now. It was in a leaked email. We know that he said it. Would the media, would people defend Trump like they would defend Stallman? Would they excuse Trump like they're installing, like they're defending, like they're excusing Stallman? No. No, they would hold him accountable, rightly so. So why aren't we holding Stallman accountable for what? Why are we doing mental gymnastics for this clown? For this guy? We wouldn't do this for anybody else. If anybody else had said this, they'd be a national pariah. If anybody else had said this, they'd be a national pariah. They'd be ousted from civilization, from society. And rightly so. But because this guy has some past glory, we well we need to know what he really meant. We need Well, Mark, yeah, we don't take the Daily Beast at his word. We take the email that he sent at his word. Right, if the email really is a thing, and this isn't the only article that brought this up. Okay, it's just this has been confirmed like multiple times. And like we went through with when I brought up TT's video there, the one with Stallman on pedophilia, and brought up that link. He's been at this for years now, since 2013. It looks like 2013 at the very least. This is when he started saying these crazy things, and maybe he started before that. But my point is that this is not brand new. This is not something that he just came out and said, "Oh, pedophilia is okay." No, this is something that's been in his behavior, that's been in his mind for years, and he's been defending this for years. And so, no, it's completely within his character to say the things that they're saying that he said, because we know that he's got a pattern of this. And so, I would like to see that email too. And I'm sure someone on 4chan's already got it out somewhere. But for now, it's been confirmed by lots of people, and it's within his behavior to say something like this. It's just one of those things. And could this be a weaponized firing? Yeah, it could be that someone in some high place said, "You know what? Let's take advantage of this and get rid of this guy." It could be. And if that's the case, then we find out what it is. We gotta. But if Stallman really did say this, then he needs to be held accountable as well. Right? Like, okay, let's say that I'm a manager at a store or something, and I really want to fire this guy. I hate this guy. I want to fire him. I need an excuse to fire him. Then he goes and does something stupid. Goes and, like, I don't know, like breaks something or hurts somebody on purpose or starts a fight or something. Well, boom. Now I got my excuse. I can go fire this guy. Now, yeah, I wanted to fire him. I got my excuse. I'm going to fire him. And, yeah, that's a bad thing to think. But if this other guy really did do the thing that made him deserve to get fired, then, yeah, that's... Hey, Ricky, how you doing? Oh, thanks for showing up, man. You reminded me that I was going to open this up as a open chat. But there it is. There's the link. Because at the end of the day, I don't think I should be the only voice in this. But, and that's the thing. We can disagree on this. We can. But I think there's some things that you just can't. I mean, some things you can do mental gymnastics around and just like make it seem okay. There's no way to do it with this. There's no way. This is clear cut and dry. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's like I'm a believer in free speech. Like, even if you do say crazy things like this, you know why? It's because I believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Okay? So, like, let's say you do have these opinions that Stallman has. Guess what? I want to hear about them. Why? Because now I know who you are, and I know to keep my children away from you. Now it's like everybody is like afraid to speak. I don't know who's having these urges. I don't know who, this guy over here, that guy over there. You just don't know. You just don't know. But if they were all open about what they want, it's like, okay, we can all band together and just like banish these people or something. I mean, that's the point. It's like, I mean, like, this is just one of those things where you can't just brush it off. You can't just say like, there's just no getting out of it. There's no getting out of it, and I think that this is a brand new beginning. Like, I think with Stallman gone from the Free Software Foundation, that we can get somebody who is actually like a good representative of our community, like someone who doesn't come up and say, free software is the best. By the way, pedophilia is okay. Maybe we should get somebody who doesn't think that sex with children is okay, and that would be a step up. Even if they're like a big wig at Microsoft, if they don't want to diddle little kids, okay, they can do it. Okay, like, how about that? That'll be a step up. Okay, I'm not saying that that would be the best option. I'm just saying that the way Stallman's been lately, it's just he hasn't set the bar that high. And hey, Ricky, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. So, what are you talking about?
Well, as you can imagine, I kind of lit the fuse here. I'm sure you've been following the controversy with Richard Stallman lately.
Yeah, he resigned his position from the Free Software Foundation and MIT.
Yes, because
he was forced to resign.
Yes, and you heard his comments about,
Yeah,
yeah,
that is just sick, and I don't know who in their right mind would say such a thing.
And so I entitled my video, my stream here, Stallman is a monster.
Mm-hmm.
Because I truly believe that if you hold the views that he spouted here in that email, that you are in fact a monster. And past glory doesn't matter. Like, he did good things, right? Like, how do you put this? The Nazis made some good scientific advancements too.
Hey guys.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, hey Ben. I hear you fixed a few things.
Oh god, it's been a hell of a day for me, you guys. I have had to unfortunately scrap my Hackman Calamares installer because here's the thing. It would just not load. I don't know what the heck I broke, but unfortunately I just couldn't fix it. I've waited and waited around for a Silent Robot to come and help, but unfortunately I just said, screw it. I'm going back to the original pack bank configuration that I had, and that is now incorporated into the installer. So,
okay. Yeah, did you hear what we were just talking about, Ben?
Yeah, no.
You might want to enlighten him, Benjamin.
Okay, so
Oh, and Silent just got back to me saying I need to change the component name in my branding file. So,
Okay.
all right, carry on, Brent. Carry on, Benjamin. Sorry, carry on.
yeah, so I was talking about how I'm
Yeah,
sure
I heard the story about.
yeah.
I heard the story that about the whole Stallman fiasco, that he got fired because he was talking about that girl and all that. I heard that part, but I didn't hear anything beyond that.
Well, well, I mean, my whole thing is I named the video Stallman is a monster because I honestly believe that if you hold the views that he has about pedophilia, that you are a monster. You know, you want to
Exactly. Exactly.
You're defending bringing harm to the most vulnerable of our society. I mean, come on. There's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no gray area here. There's no. Oh, well, maybe he didn't mean what he said. Maybe because if it was anybody else that said the things that he said, nobody would be defending them. Nobody. The only reason that anybody are defending the words that came out of this email or whatever is because Stallman is the one who said it, and because they worship the ground that he stands upon. That's the only reason anybody's defending this right now.
Well, because of what Richard said, he got knocked off his pedestal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I say never mind the toe jam incident. Never mind the fits that he throws on stage. Never mind the fact any of those things. This, if you don't draw the line at defending pedophilia, you have no line.
No. Yeah, he's. I just realized my problem, guys. The component name was wrong. Oh my lord!
Now you've done it.
But all I had to do was rename it because someone said it must be the folder name must be the same as the component name in the config. So I just fixed that, and hopefully now it will load.
Yeah.
Oh,
the thing is, I will say one thing about Stallman resigning. He did the right thing for resigning because now the Free Software Foundation can get themselves cleaned up of that negativity, because the Free Software Foundation is just supposed to spread the word about free software, not to spread the word of this fiasco.
Yeah. I mean, I would tell him, you know, if you have those opinions, you know, when you my whole thing is like, yeah, I believe in freedom of speech, and I believe he should have the right to say what he wants to say, including these atrocious things that I disagree with vehemently. Why? Because sunlight is the best disinfectant. Because he said those things. Imagine if he had kept those things to himself, we still have someone who thinks that pedophilia is okay sitting at the head of our movement.
Exactly.
So, in a way, I am glad that he was open about his feelings so that we can just get him the hell out of there. But on the same token, you got those people that are just going to defend whatever he does, and I have a problem with that. Yes, I'm talking about Richard Stallman, tax action.
I will say one thing. It's about time that the Free Software Foundation saw the light in the error of their ways and said, you know what? We don't need this person anymore. Let's get him out of here, and let's take over the free software movement and this following, this company ourselves. Let's just do all of it ourselves from this point forward.
Yeah, because now they can move forward, get somebody who will actually do a good job of representing our community, right? Like, I want somebody who's going to get up there and just talk about free software. Right?
That's it. That's all the person
That's all we want.
That's all the person has to do. Talk about free software and the purpose of freedom.
Right, like they don't have to agree with my political views. They're not there to talk about politics. They don't have to agree with me on anything except for free software.
Exactly.
Because that's what they're there to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah. If we don't have a leader, we're screwed.
and
I mean, the Linux, the time has come anyway for the Linux community to have a new leader.
and I think that this, because like I'm not saying this to throw anybody under the bus or anything like that. I'm not saying this to criticize anybody, but I don't think that we should be putting Stallman and Torvalds in the same category, if you will, just because like I think they're totally different. Like I know that Linus has his issues too, but we can sit there and say like, okay, he's still producing a product, right? Everything still goes through him. He's still contributing to this to the Linux kernel, and the Linux kernel is his baby. And yeah, he was a little rude, a little rash in some of his communication.
But here's the thing about Linus. Even though yes, Linus has done some insane things, Linus is more human than Richard would ever, because Linus would never do these such things. 'Cause here's the thing: Linus has a family of his own. He has children,
Right.
and he needs to be the responsible father that he needs to be for his children. That's how a father should be.
And I think that there's a big difference between like being a little rude about things, right? Like or like very rude in some cases. Like yeah, he could have been a lot nicer. Like I'm not defending like him, being as mean as he was. Right? And I'm not saying that what he was doing was okay. But he's not like he was doing it to protect his kernel. Right? He was doing it to protect his kernel. And like there's a big difference between that and saying like a rape victim was entirely willing. Right? If you can't see the difference between those things and just like what is this, your first day on Earth or something? I mean, come on.
Exactly. I agree with you. I agree.
I mean, that's the thing. It's
Here's the thing. If people think that this is if people new to this community or has heard of our wonderful community, if this is their first, if this is their first time coming into this community and they hear of Richard Stallman doing these things and they ask the simplest question, is this the first time he's said or done these things? The people that have been here for a little while like us, we say, nope.
No.
There is documented history of Richard Stallman having further actions than just this.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that like I think when I started the video, someone asked like, where's the source for this? And I says, well, this is not the first time that I've heard about this. The first time that I've heard about his views on pedophilia was, I looked it up, it was about a year ago. DistroTube did a video on it. And his source was a Wikipedia page that brought me to Stallman's quote from 2013. Okay, so Stallman has been saying these things since at least 2013. Now, that's nothing new. So that's why when something like this comes out that says, okay, he's defending pedophilia, he's defending this, it's not hard to believe because he has a history of this. He has a pattern of saying things like this. And so this could have been entirely fake. It's not, but it could have been. And everybody would believe it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there are some people that wish this was fake, and people be like, oh, he wouldn't say this. But it is real because he admitted it.
Because would he say something like this? Yes. Like,
yes.
we can sit here and say, like, did he say it and debate that till we're blue in the face. Did he actually say this? Like,
But the bottom line is, he admitted it in the email. He
yeah,
said he did these things, and as punishment, the Free Self Foundation, God bless them all, they made the right choice when it comes to the reputation of their company.
right. Because at the end of the day, it's like if I was just coming to the Free Software Foundation, if I was just starting to look into Linux, and this was the first exposure I had to it was, okay, here's this video of Richard Stallman. He's the head of the foundation. And if I look at him like, oh, this guy must represent the entire community. So the entire community is going to hold his views. And I go and I look him up. Oh, he thinks pedophilia is okay? This is what this community believes? Oh my god, I'm never going to use Linux in my life. I'm not going to support something like that. It's like, I mean, I think it's good that he stepped down. It's good that they got rid of him because now we can have somebody up there who actually represents us.
We can have somebody that knows what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
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 Somebody who, and I think this is and I've learned this from a lot of good people. They need somebody that can keep personal matters and private matters separate. They need to put their business side first for the company. That's
Right.
the type of leader we need. Somebody who puts business first.
And like my whole thing is that like I got into the Linux community because I wanted to get away from politics, right? Like that's the whole thing. If I want to talk politics, I start a new channel for that. But in this particular case, I had to bring up at least morality and like spirituality and stuff like that because like this is something that like if you don't inherently realize that what he said was wrong and like just pure evil at the end of the day, then there's something wrong with you, not the rest of humanity. There's something wrong in your brain. There's something not right. And I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. Now, like if you can sit there and hear somebody say like, oh, and keep in mind, if you've been following the Epstein case, right? A lot of these girls were drugged, kidnapped, and dragged to literally pedophile island against their will. Now, how are you going to sit there and say that they were entirely willing? What are you, born yesterday? There's no way that he thinks that. There's no way that he believes that. And so, like, sorry, got to call him out for what he is.
Oh, well, I guess we lost Ben.
So, I don't know if you heard what I just said there, but, like...
Yeah, I heard you.
Like, I don't know how closely you've been following the Epstein thing, but, like, I haven't been following it that closely.
The first time I've heard about it was when DistroTube talked about it in his video last night.
Like, I follow politics a little bit. Like, you know, full disclosure, I'm not a liberal, okay? But, like, I looked into the, I heard a little bit about the Epstein case, and, like, a lot of his victims were underaged, and a lot of them were kidnapped. Okay, they were drugged, kidnapped in some cases, and dragged to an island where they were trapped. Okay, so how is any of that like? Okay, these girls were entirely willing. How does any of that scream that to you? Like,
That is just sick.
I'm sorry, but anything those girls did on that island, they did either to survive, or because they were drugged or hypnotized or whatever these cultists do to these girls to make them do what they do. Whatever they were not willing. If they had their way, they'd be home with their parents right now. They were not willing. There's nothing willing about that.
No. Any form of pedophilia is just barbaric, insane, and just downright disgusting. And pardon my French for just a minute, but I think my words ring true. There's literally a special place in hell for all these people.
I believe so too. And let me make something clear. Even if she wasn't drugged and kidnapped even if she was, that still wouldn't make it okay. Okay,
exactly.
Because a child cannot consent. Okay, because like let's say you're an adult. You're you're an adult and you have this child over here that you want that you're attracted to or whatever. Of course, you can manipulate that child to say and do whatever you want to do because you're an adult. You're smarter than they are. You can make them say things and like, oh, she was completely willing. Like, you're an adult. She's a child. Of course, you can manipulate her. There's no such thing as a willing child. I'm sorry.
No, there's not. I mean, the thing is, when you're dealing with when a parent, let's just put it this way: say a loving family was raising a child, and this is just an example. Children will mimic and say what they see. They will. Children will mimic what they see and what they hear and say what they hear. Because if they're around other people, children are going to do things. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's like that's the bottom line. Is like you're an adult. You're smarter than that child. That's like if you sit here and say like you could talk that child into doing whatever you want them to do because you're an adult.
Exactly.
And they're a child. It's not a difficult concept to grasp.
It's not rocket science. It really isn't.
And that doesn't make them willing because they don't have the brain capacity to make a decision like that.
The thing is, when you're a child, you don't really understand the concept of life as of yet. You've only been on the earth for a short amount of time. You haven't been around your parents or your family long enough. You're just learning about the world. And say, for example, you're just about to go into a school to start to get your education and so on and so on. But until then, a child doesn't understand hardly anything as unless basically they're a lot older and they know more.
And it's like, let's say, for example, what was I gonna say here? Like, let's say, for example, you got some creep, out with like the white van, the stereotypical white van.
The stereotypical white van.
And he says to this child, "Hey kid, I got some candy in my van. If you just gotta come back here and take a look." And the kid's like, Of course I want candy. I'm a kid. I want candy. Let's go find some candy." And then what? The guy does what creepy old men with white vans do: locks him in the van.
And they just drive off.
Say, well, the kid was completely willing. He said, "Yeah, I want candy." He got into the van willingly.
Mm-hmm.
Why, you think the kid wanted to get locked in there and dragged away? No. No. He didn't know what he was getting himself into.
No.
Because he was a kid. Okay?
And here's the one thing, about most criminals when they do kidnappings. Not all of them will always kill. They'll just either kidnap the person, drive them away, do what they do, and then just put the person in an undisclosed location until police or somebody finds them.
Yeah, that happens a lot too. But I mean, my point is that child cannot be willing. There's no such thing as a willing child.
There is no such thing. Not even at all. Nope.
And
I mean, it's like I said before, a child will do what they see and say what they hear. That's the nature of a child.
And I mean, we're sitting here saying like, "Oh, did Stallman really say that?" Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. And it was in an email. I don't know why he would send an email like this back to someone in his job. Like, why would you talk about this in your workplace?
Exactly.
Like
I mean, this is basically the sin of all sins. Not trying to be religious here, but you just don't say this thing ever. Nobody should even talk or mention this.
I mean, it's wrong.
It is. It's very wrong. If you think murder is bad, which which in most cases murder is bad, but here's the thing: pedophilia is 10 times worse because once the deed is done, the child is never the same again.
Well, but Mark, he did speak that way. Like, even if you make the argument, like, oh, you don't have the email to prove that he said it this time. Well, yeah, okay, you can make the argument, okay, you can't prove that he said it this time. Yeah, I could prove that he said it multiple times in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And that this is something that he definitely would, in his pattern of behavior, this is something that he would say and do. And since it's been established that he admitted to saying this, it was in an email that he sent in his workplace that's the source that he actually did. Yes, he did in fact say this, and yes, in fact, he would say something like this.
Well, not only was he fired and resigned, resign, whatever. Richard Stallman and that wrong person, they should just be both locked in jail.
Because, like, look, I'm gonna put it to you this way. Like, you remember, like, years ago, there was that case, I think, what was her name? Elizabeth Smart, who got kidnapped or whatever. And,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I'm gonna put it to you this way. Epstein's victims were willing like Elizabeth Smart was willing, okay? Bottom line, she was brainwashed, she was drugged to the point where she started to identify with her captor. Right,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of kidnapping victims do that. They'll defend their captor because it's something. I think it's something called Stockholm syndrome, right? Where you start to identify with your captor, with the perpetrator, and you're like, oh.
And the thing is, offenders will defend that captor because it's pretty much the only thing they have left.
I mean, it's like a pimp who has his whores over there, and he'll beat them up if they don't have their money. He'll do all, he's selling them for his own personal gains. But they'll say, well, my daddy's good, my pimp daddy's good, and they'll defend him. Right, even though he's completely abusing them. Epstein's victims were willing, like they're willing. They're willing, like Elizabeth Smart's victims were willing. Like Elizabeth Smart was willing. You know why? Because these people are masters of brainwashing these people.
Mm-hmm. And this is the one thing. This is the one thing about Stallman's words. He has absolutely no idea how many people in the Free Software Foundation he's affected by what he said. He has no clue. No clue. Because, look at it this way, Benjamin. Most of the people in a Linux Software Foundation, they either have children or they don't. But either the case, nobody in that foundation wants to hear those atrocious words from anybody. And if you think about it, it puts a really bad reputation on the company. I mean, this is the type of thing, with what he said, this puts the company in danger.
Yeah, it does, because if he's up there and he wants to be our face, okay, that's the thing. He's up there representing the Free Software Foundation. He wants to be your face and my face. He wants to represent you and me. And he's going to say, well, I'm representing the entire free software community when I say these things. Okay, so people who take that seriously and take that literally are going to think, oh, all these people who use Linux, they agree with everything this guy just said.
But that's wrong at the same time, because not everybody in the Linux community agrees with Richard Stallman, because everybody has their own opinions and their own way of thinking.
Well, but my point is that people from the outside looking in might not see it that way.
Exactly.
And there's the problem. We don't want him to be our representative. Okay, because here's my thing is that, like, I just want somebody up there who is only going to talk about the free software side of things. Like, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, don't talk about anything. Don't talk about anything else but free software. Because that's what you're up there to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but Mark, yeah, we're guilty by association because he's our leader. But guess what?
He's not our leader anymore.
Well, guess what? We're calling him out. We're ousting him. We're doing the right thing.
Exactly.
As a community, we're doing the right thing. We're calling him out, and we're getting him out of there.
Mm-hmm. And he is going to answer for everything he's done in one form or another, whether he's put in jail or not. He will answer for everything.
Well, I don't think he should be put in jail just for saying things. But here's my thing: is that let's see if he ever gets a speaking gig again.
Exactly. I mean, once people hear, once this, and this news story is breaking out just now, everywhere. Once everybody gets a word of this, nobody's going to want to deal anything with him anymore.
Yeah, let's see if he gets another speaking gig again. Let's see, just go quietly into the sunlight. Just go quietly into the sunset, Richie. That's all I'm gonna say. Just fade away.
Just fade away and never be heard from again.
And hopefully, because the best thing you could hope for is just get the heck out of the spotlight, and hope that we forget. Because if you come back into the spotlight, then all this is just gonna come right back out and haunt you. That's all I can say. Just let people who are sane represent the Free Software Foundation, okay?
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
And
I know. I understand, Mark. I completely understand why you don't want to cover this.
yeah, no, it's a pretty divisive subject, and it shouldn't be.
It is. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. We should all sit here and agree what he said was pure evil, and he's a monster. Right? I know that I say that he's a monster, and I know that's what's going to trigger a lot of people, because people say, but he did so many good things. Don't judge the man. No. You defend. If anybody else said the words that he said, you'd be calling them a monster. The only reason we're sitting here having this discussion about, don't judge the man, is because of some past glory that he had, because people worship the ground that he stands upon. And nobody should be doing that just because of some. It's like, okay. What if a racist discovered the cure for cancer? Okay. What if a racist discovered the cure for cancer? Are you going to go and donate to the Klan now?
Mm-hmm.
No. But are you going to reject the cure for cancer? No.
No.
No, you're going to take the cure for cancer, but say, okay, but you're a racist, so go away now. So, I mean, it's a complicated issue, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
I mean, the thing is, what's done has been done, but the effects of this are going to follow Richard Stallman wherever he goes from this moment forward. It's going to follow him.
Yeah, as it should. As it should. Unless he comes out tomorrow and says, I'm sorry for what I said. I realize that I'm wrong. Right? Yeah, Mark, we can forgive him, but that doesn't mean that we let somebody like that back in. There's a difference between forgiveness and tolerance. There's a difference between forgiveness and enabling. Right? Like, you can forgive somebody. Like, if someone punches you in the face, you can forgive them, but you're not going to let them punch you in the face again.
No.
There's a difference between those two things. And yeah, I mean, I understand why some people don't want to make a video on this, but I'm not looking for clicks and I'm not looking for money, so I'm just putting my 2 cents out there on this issue. And I don't care if I make 1 million enemies. If I make 1 million enemies for saying that pedophilia is wrong, and that somebody else is wrong for saying that pedophilia is fine, fine. Something's wrong with those 1 million people, not me.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody say, oh, you shouldn't say, like, why not? Why shouldn't I say something on this issue? What's wrong with speaking the truth? It's because it's gonna piss a few people off here, trigger a few people who worship the ground that this monster stands upon. It's like, come on. First of all, we shouldn't be idolizing people. We shouldn't be idolizing people like that, because everyone's gonna make mistakes. First of all. Second of all, this is not like I'm not even talking about like the fits that he throws when he's on stage. Like that doesn't make us look good either. But
No, it doesn't. I mean, it's. I'm just gonna say this, and everybody in that chat room is gonna agree with me. The fits he throws on that stage is childish behavior.
yeah, and I'm not saying
Childish behavior. He needs to act like an adult, and that's it. That's it.
I did not realize that he changed his views. Zebedee saying that Richard Stallman stated that he had his views changed on pedophilia and that adults should not do that.
Okay. I did not know that, Zeb.
Well, if he said that, then I stand corrected. And
If he said that.
I mean, I trust you that he said it. But on the same token, it's like I have a hard time believing that after years of saying that it's like all of a sudden he changed his mind. But he said that he changed his mind now that there are consequences.
Mm.
Okay, he didn't change his mind when he was still allowed to keep his position. He didn't change his mind until now, until he was forced to resign. And so,
either way, even though he has changed his views, he said. He wrote, many years ago, I posted that I could not see anything wrong. Okay. Through personal conversations in recent years, I've learned to understand. It changed my mind about them. No, should not do that. I'm grateful for the conversations that enabled me. Well, if his views have been changed over the last few years, okay.
But then, how recent did he change his views? Okay, like how recently did he change his views? Is this like years ago? Because then that's in conflict with what he said in this email. That means that he's contradicting himself, and at best we don't know what to believe his views are. And so, like, I would like for him to come out and once and for all set the record straight. This is what I believe. This is what I'm going to say that I believe from here on out. And like, it's like whatever it is, just be honest about it. And like, if he's truly repentant and he truly changed his mind on it, then good for him. I mean,
I see, Zeb. I see.
But I mean, at the same token, if he honestly changed his views on it, then good for him. Good for him.
If he has changed the error of his ways, then good on him. Good on him.
But I would say, like, when did he change his views? Because this email has to have been like very recent. This email that came out had to have been very recent. And if he changed his mind, like, what, yesterday? Right after he was forced to resign? Right, like, after the hammer dropped?
But for 2 days, yeah, I can see that, Zeb. I can see that.
Well, I mean, like,
but here's the thing. That does bring up a point. Nobody is perfect, and the blunders that Richard has done proves that.
Yeah, I mean, at the same token, it's like, okay, he recently, like, he was forced to resign. So, like, he resigned. fired. But here's the thing, okay? If he changed his mind about this after the resignation, I would have a tougher time believing that it's a sincere change of opinion, because why didn't he change his mind before the consequences? Right, like, now that there are consequences for what he's saying, he's changed his mind. And so, like, I don't know. It's like, I think.
Yeah, this interview was September 14th, 2019. He said if you the interview said reread what the interview said.
So this is recent then. This is recent. This is during the whole. So we have a conflict there then. If he's saying in an email that a child is willing
through personal conversations in recent years, so this has been recent.
Okay, so on one hand, in recent years, he's been having conversations with people convincing him that pedophilia is wrong. And now recently in an email, he says that Epstein's victims were entirely willing. So we have a conflict here. That's what it is. It's a conflict at this point. He's saying things that contradict other things that he's claiming to believe. And so I have to say that how can we say for sure what he honestly believes at this point? Because all this really did was throw doubt into it and say, like, he's contradicting himself. You can't say, like, okay, well, sex with children harms their psychology. Also, these rape victims over here were entirely willing. You can't have those two things. I'm sorry, but, like, if he honestly said those things, that, like, that he changed his views on pedophilia, then he shouldn't have said the thing that he said in that email. And we have a contradiction here. That's my view, and we can have a disagreement on it. And hey, Linux City.
Hey, Linux City, how you doing?
So he's saying recent years.
He sees the. Oh. He sees the Epstein incident as rape, not. Okay. That's not forget. He is socially and.
Okay,
I see. Okay.
Okay, but at the same token, rape by definition is not willing. Rape by definition is not willingness. So if he sees it as rape, right, like, you can't have a willing rape victim. By definition, that would make it not rape if they were willing. So, I mean, and from what I understand, the girl was, what, 17? So she's still a minor.
And he does not believe that they were not willing. He is not.
Well, I might have to jump off here in a little bit, but I mean, I do realize that I might make some enemies here, and that's perfectly fine. I'm speaking my honest opinion on the matter. That like, I'm sorry, but like, I guess to conclude, I'll just say that, like, I mean, this is my honest opinion on the matter. That And people can disagree with me if they want.
But let me make my position perfectly clear. He should disappear down a hole, and I agree with you, Zeb, 100%. 100%. He should disappear. He should just get on his horse and ride into the sunset. That's what he should do. That's what he should do. Just ride out in that desert on the horse he rode in on and never come back.
Yeah, just.
And as for your title,
Yeah.
Yep.
Well.
Yep. He is a monster.
I stand by that. I stand by that. Because see the article here, it specifically says that it was a leaked email. So he was saying these things over emails over his if I remember correctly, it was at his job, right, at his workplace. He was sending emails back and forth, and I mean, if you see it's in quotation marks where he said they were entirely willing. And if you look at it as a rape case, you can't say they were entirely willing. There's nothing willing about rape.
No.
That's why it's called rape. So, I mean,
there is no willing in that period. There has never been willing. That doesn't even exist.
Like, even if the victim was like 30 years old and they were raped, that's still not willing, and that's still a crime.
Exactly.
And so, like, if it's rape, then that is a bit of a different ballgame, but it's still a crime, and it should not. And it's like people tend to forget what Epstein's Island was. None of those girls were willing at all. Okay? They were.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, rape is an accusation until proven. Yes. But Epstein trafficked these women to an island unwillingly. Many of them were kidnapped. None of them were willing. It was. Like I said, now we're having conflicting views. We're having conflicting things that he's saying. He's saying things that are contradicting other things that he's saying. And so now what we have is a mess.
All I gotta say is Richard Stallman just needs to disappear and disappear very, very quickly.
But he said that the victim was entirely willing. That's it. That's in here, right here in the email. Epstein's alleged victims was entirely willing. And so you got an issue there. I mean, I'm sorry, you just can't have those two things. You can't have. It's like if I said it's raining outside, also it's not raining. Right?
You can't have both. It's either it either is raining or it's not raining.
Right.
Pick one.
Right. So you can't. Like, at this point,
I mean, for example, you can't say somebody gives you a cookie, but then you want another one. You can't have two cookies. You can only have one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where, like, maybe he did say all of these things. Maybe he did say that Epstein is a serial rapist. Okay, but then that just contradicts other things that he's saying, and these aren't like things that he said in like way back in time. Okay, we're talking about like recent things at this point. He said they were entirely, yeah. In the email, he said that the victims were entirely willing.
That's impossible. Nobody can be willing if that's going on. It is literally impossible for somebody to be willing in that.
And it's like people tend to forget what Epstein was doing. It was literally pedophile island. Okay, it was pedophile island. Okay, none of the girls on that island were willing in any of the action, any of the things that were going on. I'm sorry, but that's just not the case. And I mean, if this is the case, then it sounds like. Okay, I would like to see the source where he said that Jeffrey Epstein is a serial rapist. Because I've seen the source where it says that his victims were entirely willing, and I've seen the source from years ago when he said that pedophilia has no.
All I gotta say, just to make this 100% perfect clear, this is just the biggest absolute train wreck in the history of the Linux community. The biggest train wreck. And it is a gigantic mess that needs to be cleaned up to completion. Cleaned up to completion.
And you know, I will say that the community handled it, at least most of the community.
Most of them.
Most of the community handled it very well by saying this man does not speak for me, not defending him, and ousting him from the community. That's what you do with people like that. Okay, like if you have some like again, not to bring politics into it, but let's say you have like people say like there's a bunch of Nazis trying to join the Republican wing, and what the Republicans oust them. The Republicans say, no, you can't be us. You cannot be us. They make them social pariahs. That's what you do with people like that. That's what you do with extremists like that. You say, you come out as soon as you know this, and you say, this man does not speak for me. He needs to be ousted from my community. He does not represent my views accurately.
I mean, the Linux community, they did the right thing.
Yeah.
The Free Software Foundation, they did the best thing. Because right now, even though he's gone, they are at extreme danger of being shut down because of what he said. And they need to fix that quickly before we lose the Free Software Foundation for good.
And there's a flip side of the coin that people think that it might be a weaponized, like part of cancel culture or whatever that is. And like I think like maybe it was targeted, maybe it was like, but the fact still stands that he said these things. He needed to be held accountable. Like don't like in this case, like yeah, cancel culture is an issue. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, it is an issue. Oh, here I have to make him a moderator. Yeah, you should be able to post links now. I think. Hope I did that right. Yeah. I just gotta run to the bathroom real quick, but I'll be right back.
Okay. It's not apparently. You have all been posted to call after. I see, Zeb. I see. And I would defend you. He'll be back in just a minute, guys. So I'll keep an eye on the live chat for a minute. Okay, let's see what's here. So, Zeb, how have you been doing? And how's everybody else been doing as well? Okay. Eh. Oh, trust me, Zeb. There's a lot of people that want him to go away. There is simply a lot of people that want Richard Stallman to go away. Trust me on that.
Well, but I think there's a word for that too, Zeb. I think technically there is a different word for someone who like rapes like teenagers and not like children. Like pedophilia is like for the children. I think there's another word for like, but like it's all the same to me. It's like they're kids, they're children. Don't do that.
Here's the thing: rape is rape. There's no difference.
And it doesn't like as far as rape is concerned, it doesn't matter. Oh yeah, this is the article that I was looking at. The renowned. Here, matter of fact, I'll show the. So, renowned MIT scientists. Victims were entirely willing. And this isn't the only article or video that I've seen on it. Like, I think DT did a video on it where he said that, Stallman went too far. It's like, whoops, can anyone still hear me? Or did I?
He said, Zeb said the 8th paragraph.
Okay, so.
Yeah, paragraph 8.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Stallman currently works as a visiting scientist at MIT. To the website University's computer and as a president of the free software, which Stallman. Am I looking at the right paragraph? I thought I counted.
Zeb said two more down, Ben.
Ah.
2 more. So it's actually paragraph 10.
Stallman commented on the news of Epstein at length on his personal site in April of this year. The programmer wrote of one story, I disagree with some of what the article says about Epstein. Epstein is not apparently a pedophile since the people he raped seem to have all been post-pubertal. He preferred to call Epstein a serial rapist. Well, but that's not really any better. And here we have a conflict because if he's saying up here that they were entirely willing, and then said that he's a rapist, you can't have those two things in the same.
You can't have both ways. You cannot have both ways.
First of all, even if the 17-year-old, which in this case I believe that's how old the person was, even if they consented, that's still considered raping. That's still considered rape. Okay, now because they're a minor. Like 17 is still, but I mean, so at this point, what we have is a conflict of views. He's trying to hold two views that are completely illogical. They don't fit. You can't have a willing rape victim. That doesn't exist. Okay. Because by definition, rape is an unwilling participant. You forced yourself on that person. That's what makes it a rape. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that he's gone because now we can focus on.
Now we can focus on reorganizing everything in the Linux community to where we want it to go, and the Free Software Foundation can finally start getting themselves to be a better representation for the community. Because that's why the foundation was built in the first place, to represent us. And I'm just gonna say this for the record: Stallman lost his way, and now that he's
Hmm.
gone, we cast him aside, and now it's time for a new representative for the Free Software Foundation to step up, take his place, and say, "Hello, let's change some things."
And you know what? I came on this morning, and I mean, you think I wanted to talk about this? I don't want to talk about this. I'd rather talk about
No,
that I've been experimenting with different desktop environments right now. Matter of fact, I've been using KDE, and I'll see you, Zeb. Thanks for stopping by.
thanks for stepping by, Zeb. See you later.
And like I know that this topic is gonna make a lot of enemies, because like there's a lot of people out there who would defend anything this man does.
I mean,
And
but but the thing is though. But here's the thing: there's an old saying, Benjamin. Haters are going to hate.
and I think it was who Winston Churchill that said, "If you have enemies, good. It means you stood for something, and you stood your ground for something you truly believed in at some point in your life."
Exactly.
And let me put something out there too. In a way, I'm hoping that the people who would defend him come out, because the people who would defend this are the enemies I want to have as enemies.
Exactly.
Those are the people. Like if like those are the people I think we need to expose in our community, and make them pariahs. Seriously.
hmm But I think either way, I think we pretty much covered this issue enough. I think we better start wrapping things up here.
Yeah. Because you want to know something? I would rather talk about that. I've been running KDE, right? Right, uh, as opposed to my regular i3, because I got bored with i3. Honestly, like it was just the same thing over and over again. I was like, oh my god, it's just so boring. It's just nothing breaks. It's so boring. I was like, what am I gonna do? It's just see a bunch of updates go through. Nothing
Well,
broke.
right now, my Peppermint. I think I pretty much, thanks to my Arch Linux UEFI YouTube production machine that I recently rebuilt, because my Peppermint took the tank. I think I figured out what was wrong with Peppermint in the first place. My GNOME Disk Utilities write cache was turned on, and this has never happened when write cache was on for. Every time I would suspend, it would literally just not want to boot.
Okay, Mark, KDE is going pretty good for me. I'd rather talk about KDE, and I'd rather talk about this other thing that I got working last night. I got Origin to work through Lutris.
EA Origin?
Yeah, the client. If you on I got this the two. Remember I was talking about like a few months back this game that I really wanted to get working called Syndicate
Yeah.
in 2012. Guess who got Syndicate working on Linux?
You did.
Now, I didn't say I got it working smoothly, but I got it working. And I'd rather be talking about that because I'm so excited that, oh yeah, I got this working.
Yes.
KDE, let's see, what did I do? Um, what did I do to get my KDE working? I disabled instant messenger. Um, I gave up on Cayman. And I found that as long as it's configured correctly, it can be a very tolerable experience.
Hmm.
And
It's definitely a change to use a graphical environment instead of a window manager, isn't it?
yes, but I found that there's certain things that i3 just wasn't doing for me. Like, I don't know how to explain it other than um, like the rest of the world isn't going to use a tiling window manager.
No, I mean everybody's going to use a graphical environment. That's just how it is. I mean, for the people who want to use a window manager, go ahead.
And I realized that, like, I love i3. I love its workflow, and I could use it till the day I die, honestly. But I realized that, like, the people that I'm putting on Linux aren't going to be using that,
No,
and
no.
I'm missing out on so much of the development of these other desktop environments. And
Hmm.
so I decided to,
Well,
like today I'm using KDE. Tomorrow I might use GNOME.
yeah.
Tomorrow, the next day I might use Cinnamon.
Well, my current environment right now that I'm running on my Arch UEFI system is LXDE GTK free version.
Nice.
I got that working along with my new login manager that I've loved to death, LXDM.
And I tried the GNOME 3.34 for like a day, and I realized that GNOME isn't that, like, functionality wise, feature
It
wise.
it's improved a tiny bit
Yeah.
more, but it's just not ripe yet. The here's the thing. The day I see GNOME fully ripe is the day it works on older hardware. That's the goal I wanted to get. I want GNOME to work with older hardware.
Well, that's the thing. It's like KDE. I think one criticism I can give KDE, but it's not really a criticism. It's more like a, I don't know. It's I don't know. I'll let you guys decide what it is. It's
The, let me guess, the many options it has to where you can get lost.
well, that's part of it. Yeah, because if you give KDE to, like, let's say, a new user and they start tinkering around, like, even veteran KDE users don't know what every setting is or where it is. And
Okay, okay, Mark.
oh,
See you
I
later.
see ya. See ya, Mark. Like, let's say you give KDE to a brand new user and they just go around the settings and they take some random option that just, like, screws everything up.
Yeah, a new user ain't gonna sit with that. Now, if you were to put a
Well,
new
but guess what?
user, now if you were to put a new user in front of something like Cinnamon, they would adapt very quickly. Because
Yeah.
Cinnamon is supposed to represent Windows, and that's and and we have a lot of Windows users still. So if you put a Windows user in front of Cinnamon, they're going to adapt. If you put a Windows user in front of LXDE, they're going to because if you here's the thing. This is how I see it. KDE free is the Windows 10 of Linux. LXDE is pretty much the Windows 98 of Linux. And Cinnamon is the Windows 7 of
Yeah.
Linux.
Now throw XFCE as, like, because I think
XFCE, I would say, is the Windows 95 of Linux because you can configure it to either have a Windows interface or a Mac interface.
yeah, KDE is beautiful.
It is, and
As
4.14 just makes it look so good with it now being GTK free after so many years.
and, like, yeah, there's the occasional, like I don't use Kmail. I use Thunderbird, and I don't use Conqueror. I use, well, to be honest, I usually use Chromium, not Chrome but Chromium, because, like, everything just kind of works in it. Like, I know everything's gonna start a war today.
Yeah.
First it was the FSF wars. Now we're gonna have the browser wars. Um, like,
What do you? Speaking of the browser, I mean, I know we're going to have to get off in a few minutes, but one more little thing. What do you think of Mozilla switching Firefox from HTTPS to DNS?
I haven't looked into that. I'd rather look into the article before I give, like an
Okay.
honest opinion on it. Um, But you mean DNS as in dynamic name service? I think that's what it's.
Domain name serve. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, but doesn't every browser use DNS to translate the IP addresses to the names?
I don't know if every browser does or not.
Yeah, because that's a universal protocol. You have to like, it's the protocol that like if you go to Google.com,
Yeah,
right? DNS is what converts that server's IP address into readable words like www.google.com. So like
exactly.
everything uses DNS. I mean, I don't know. Like DNS isn't really like a. It's not like HTTPS. It's like it's just a different. It has a different function. So like I don't know what it means by like switching over from HTTPS to DNS. It's like I don't know. I don't know what the context of that is or how that would actually work.
Well, I mean, so the article for it is on some of the Linux news forums. You just gotta find it.
Because
But other than that, I think I'm gonna jump off here.
yeah, I'm gonna jump off in a minute too. You know,
Hmm.
I stirred the pot enough. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, but at the end of the day, I think that like the title of this video, yeah, it seems a little clickbaity, but you
Hmm.
know what? I stand by the statement. It's an honest statement
Exactly.
from the heart. I truly
Mhm.
believe it. I will defend it to my grave. That there is no gray area here. There's only black and white. There's only good and evil here. You either call it evil or you ignore it or whatever. I'm gonna sit here and call it evil,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna call it for what it is.
Yeah. But anyway, people, I'm going to jump off here. I will see you all later.
Same here. I'm gonna maybe go enjoy the rest of my day. So I'll talk to you guys later. Hopefully my next video will be a little more um, lighthearted. I'm probably gonna jump off this I'm gonna jump off this topic. Um, and I mean seriously, if anybody has an issue with what I just said, I mean, so what? Disagree with me. Disagree with me till you're blue in the face. Don't care. Um, I'll see you guys later. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.